Yeah! Woo!
Woo!
We're back.
Welcome. We're back. Another episode of Toon Talk TV presented by We Are the Television. This is the top animated podcast on YouTube where we talk about everything cartoons. I'm Nero, and I'm here with my boys Al and Spiros.
Go fuck yourself,
Did I say that?
It's Sporus, though. It's Sporus.
Sporus.
And I
Nero
would
and
cut
Sporus.
your scrotum off in a second, dude.
Okay. Well, before
Brett,
you
scoot over to your left. Scoot over to your left, Brett. There you go.
I'm in this. All right. Okay.
Before we get to scrotum cutting, be sure and subscribe to the channel and give us a like and visit the Patreon, which is in the link below. Now, boys, before we get started on what tunes we're talking, I got to talk a little bit about Interface from last week's episode. Only because...
Did you watch it?
Only because I did.
Yes.
And I'm just mind blown. But it's going to segue into my cartoon for this week.
Cool.
Right? So...
Interesting, because I feel like I picked my cartoon because of Interface, too.
Oh, inspiration. Hell yeah.
Umami is inspiring the masses right now. But yeah, so I went back and I watched it start to finish, and then I just went down the rabbit hole and started finding all these videos kind of explaining things and, you know, people giving their opinions on what it means, all this stuff. And the main thing for me is how complex the story is. I mean, given it took him 3 years to create, but there's something in the animation style. I mean, not the way it was created, but I'm a big fan of these animations where it's like a still image and then just something brief is happening in the background.
Okay.
Do you guys have preferences or anything like that you kind of like when it comes down to specific types of animation, whether it be traditional Looney Tunes version cartoons or Ren and Stimpy's or animes?
I would say that as long as it is, as it moves you in some way, then, or if it's unique, I feel like just like you had said, how there's a little bit of movement.
Yeah.
I think there's an art to that. I think you can't just say a little bit of movement, because sometimes if you barely put any movement in an animation, it's going to look like crap. But if you do it tastefully, then you got something.
Yeah, I would have to say I'm a fan of the opposite. I like I've said in previous episodes, I like to be overstimulated with the animation, but I think why this worked so well for Interface is because the key frame, the one frame, the initial frame that was drawn around the animation is so interesting in itself. It could almost not move, and you would still enjoy it as a piece, you know?
It's also, well, go for it, Nick.
No, go ahead, Al.
I was going to say, I think even with the way that he frames it, he does it like a cinematographer. So it's not 2D. It's very visually like the shots are like almost like it's like he did it like a director. Like he knows where you want to place the view of the audience, and it's done very well. So
now
well, wait, actually, before, so I'm sorry for interrupting you, but just for the audience, if you are literally just starting on this episode and have no idea what the hell we're talking about, go watch our last episode where we talk about Umami's Interface. His YouTube presence is called Umami, Umami, and his real name is Justin Tomchuk, and we'll also link that in the description too.
But bringing the director and cinematography aspect into that movie, I am a big fan of movies in general. It's even better if it's an animation where you can watch it in two different ways. So basically, there's the film interface as it is on YouTube, and then when you go back and watch like these video breakdowns, they'll put the story in chronological order for you, which tells a completely different tale. And stories like that are holy fuck. like that you were able to one, write that story and then be able to show it on screen, but then have the future foresight to be able to, hey, if they watch this in a different order, it tells a different story from start to finish. Did you guys catch that at all?
I didn't watch. I only watched the full like VHS version. But I saw. Is he okay? So the thing that he's working on now, it's
Safe
mode. Safe mode.
Safe mode.
Is he putting that out the same way that he put out Interface? Like I saw chapter 1 through 4, so, and that's kind of how he put Interface out the same way. Okay. So yeah, I like how he's doing that. You get like little bite-sized pieces of it, and they stand alone as well as they stand for a full movie. So
But I think
that does make some insight.
Nick, are you talking about like just a story in general, like how you can, I don't know, almost a Tarantino way of story writing, where here's the thing,
where if you watch it and it's like, okay, the shit that actually happens at the end is actually the beginning of the actual story.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
I'll be honest
still,
with you.
The simple nuggets are really good.
I have never been a fan of that, to be honest with you, because just write the fucking story how it should be told. I mean, the only person who I will praise for doing that is Tarantino, but like all the other films, like I just immediately think of like an A24 like art house film that like some guy let's write a normal film but put the ending at the beginning, and like why? Like just
I think that's cool. I think
write
like
the fucking
sometimes
story.
They did that in Westworld a lot. Like you didn't quite know.
And how good is that going?
Where it's at. Well, no, I thought it
canceled.
ended up pretty good.
It's still going.
4 seasons
Isn't
later.
it? Is it
No,
done?
it's canceled. They canceled that show.
They couldn't go any further with that.
Yeah.
They took it to its limit.
But no, yeah, like Brett said, we'll link to that stuff. Go check out Umami's interface. It's mind blowing. Check out Safe Mode, which he's doing right now. I'm looking forward to how that story goes. But speaking of my cartoon for the week that I have been watching, it itself is also a animated film, and it's a Netflix TV special called Entergalactic. Ooh. It's created by Scott Muscudi, aka Kid Cudi, and Kenya Barris.
What, really?
For those of you who don't know, yeah, Kid Cudi, famous rapper, musician, novelist, I think. He does all sorts of shit. But here is the part that ties back to Interstellar for this cartoon. So, or just a few details before it. It's done in the animation style of I Lost My Body, which was a Academy Award animated short from Netflix, and then it's inspired by Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. So picture that type of animation when I talk about it, because that's the style that it's done in. Yeah,
that's some intense animation. Is there a lot of animators on this? Okay.
I didn't see the complete list, but I'm assuming it's huge because it's about an hour. I think it's about an hour and 20 minutes is the movie.
Okay.
But here's the tie-in to Interstellar. So, or sorry, not Interstellar.
Interstellar? Interface?
Interface. Here's the tie back to Interface. So, Tom Wick wrote the music for Interface. So there's a complete score that he did, original music that he laid over for Interface. And in an interview, I heard that a person asked him, did you write the story first or did the music come first? And he goes, well, sometimes I'll just sit down and start playing a melody or do something on my keyboard, and it inspires something that will then turn into a story. Similarly enough, Intergalactic is based on the Intergalactic album that Kid Cudi put out. I think it's his seventh or eighth studio album. So basically, he wrote this album of music and then was like, wow, let me make a companion animation, a film based off of this.
Cool.
So
that's cool.
here are the questions that I got for you guys. Here, the first one. as musicians yourself, what are your thoughts on shows and or movies that combine those two musical elements? Like you got a companion music album and a film or a show at the same time. Like what are your thoughts on those type of things?
I love them, dude. I wish we could do a couple shows just based on one, so many come in my head, like music video stories like that bands will do. Daft Punk did a series of music videos that were all in the same animation style and also followed a story. There's I'm a big fan of musical driven, like we've talked about Opal and Jack Stauber's stuff, but I'm a huge fan of music mixed with storyline. Even Long Live the Goat kind of had based on those songs, there was a lot of backstory that was created before the song actually was written. So I love that.
We almost wrote the song. The lyrics of a lot of the songs were based on some weird storyline that we could have animated.
Yeah,
almost
cool.
every single time. Every single time.
Yeah.
I would say I agree. Love them. I think it's a hard feat because you usually have to either make it a music video where you animate to where you animate to the music, and in that sense, the music always comes first. You're just kind of making a visual towards the music, or if you do the opposite, it ends up being like a score for whatever story you made. So I think it's really hard to combine the two really well because you almost have to have the writing of the music and the writing of the story needs to coincide. I think, and I feel like I was a little surprised that you said that they had who was the guy that scored Interface? That you'd
Umami
mentioned?
did it himself.
Yeah, Umami did it himself.
Oh,
Yeah.
I thought you just said.
Oh no,
okay, all right.
His real name, Jason Tom. Yeah,
Justin
Okay, so-
Tomchuk. Yeah.
Justin Tom.
Okay, so that's what I thought, and I feel like you almost have to be involved in both aspects of it for it to flow so well because a lot of when you animate, you have to make the music first.
Yeah.
Because if you do it the other way around, it throws off the beats. You screw it all up. I feel like a lot of.
No, keep going.
I feel like a lot of his animation, and this is what brought me to my pick today too, which I don't want to go into yet. I want you to keep going on it, but I feel like it's so cool how he almost made these shots like they could almost be looped. And I think he did that on purpose because I think he made the music and then he took the shots and placed them in and made them as long as they needed to be with those subtle loops going on for whatever length he had to make them. That's how it looked like, in my opinion. I don't know if that's how he really did it, but it seemed like he made the music, which that music that he makes, Hexsystem, is what he goes under. Really cool stuff. And I heard him say that he hires out a lot of musicians too. So I think I don't know if by the end of it he added a bunch of people or he just collaborated with a bunch of people. But either way, I think he had his hands in deep with the music and the animation at the same time. I think he was making them both at the same time.
He actually just it was on a live stream, so he either was talking about like it's gonna come out or it already came out, but he just put out or he's talking about putting out a music video, and it's his first non-animated thing on his channel for one of his stuff. So that's worthy of checking out. So
cool.
So with Intergalactic, it's basically a love story. Like this creator guy goes on this little adventure with one of his neighbors that he meets randomly at a bar. It's a good story. It's nothing, out of this world or anything. The visuals are, again, think Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and they use all those same techniques so it makes it crazy. But the album acts as the music for the film. So if you've never heard the album, you're like listening to it for the first time as well. So the next question or the last question that I got for you guys is, you both kind of touched on it a little bit. Does music come first or does story come first? But I guess I'd like to hear about your thoughts on ever creating something like that. Is that something that you would keep in your back pocket, or is it just too difficult to be able to compose original music and then build a story on top of that?
Oh, we've talked about, we've talked about that many times.
That's my goal.
That's like I don't know. That was actually like one of the things that we were planning on doing like soon, really, to be honest with you. We still play music all the time. So if we can like mix the two, like it's like
Win-win.
That's the dream right there.
Well, on top of that, you're incorporating all forms of the medium then too. You got visual, you have audio, like you are literally making an art piece that stimulates every I don't know, like,
sense.
Sense. Yeah, so
like kind of going back to what I had said, I feel like you can either write the story first or you could write the music first. But to do it very well, I think you need to kind of you don't even have to do it at the same time. You just have to be willing to go back and change things to fit better with the music, or fit the story, or fit the music better with the story.
Yeah.
You know, you got to be willing to go back and edit so it's a smoother composition.
Yeah, but we're talking about it also from like a director's standpoint too. Like I feel like because that was specifically like a director, like whoever, I don't know, like to be able to edit the creation is something completely different from being able to write a good song or make a good visual, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, so if you're a fan of I Lost My Body and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, go check out Intergalactic. It's on Netflix right now by the one and only Kid Cudi. So tossing it to Al, since you were itching to speak about your tune, what cartoon are you watching?
So after watching Interface, I was thinking back on this cartoon I had seen a while ago that gave me a very similar vibe. After rewatching it, I wouldn't say they're the closest things ever, but they have a very similar vibe. And it's a short film. It's probably 2 minutes long. We can link it in the description below. I really think that if it's called Inside by Mattis Dovier. I think that's how you pronounce their name. An artist from Paris, France, and it's like 2 minutes long. And Brett, I know you've seen it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like black and white with
black and white. It's pixel art.
Yeah.
It almost looks like you can watch it like it came off of a Game Boy. But it's a very creepy vibe. It's about like a vision of the end of humanity, and it's seriously like 2 to 3 minutes long. So Nick, before we even talk about it, I think you should watch it.
I'm pulling it up real quick. What was the name again? Mattis?
It's called Inside. Mattis Dovier. Mattis Dovier.
All right, we're back from that short break. Me and Brett each watched Inside, and that was great. Al, keep going.
Pretty short,
keep going.
short and sweet.
Yeah,
real creepy. I guess it reminded me of it because just of like the retro pixelated style. It looks like it could be out of an old school video game, and it talks about some of the same deep concepts of just like where humanity is going. And I think it was wild. I feel like this was made in 2016, and I wonder what this guy is still doing, because I feel like the only work that I've seen from them is music videos, and that was the only real like story piece.
Yeah.
All the rest of it is music videos and ads. And one other thing that was a collaboration with a band called Wild Beasts, that was a novel made from GIFs, and it was called GIF-Novel, and it just a cool idea. It is a novel made with GIFs, and it was kind of goes back to what I was saying. I think it's a cool idea to just make a bunch of GIFs and then do the timing of the video based on whatever your audio track may be. So so most of the time that's going to be music that you put to it afterwards, and you can, if you have to extend a GIF, if you have to loop a GIF a little bit longer, you can. The weird thing about this is I couldn't actually find the novel online. It looks like it existed on Jameson like Jameson the whiskey. Yeah. Jameson Works their website for a while, and then they pulled it down. And I guess you can't find it anymore. So tell me, what do you guys think about the idea of making a story on just GIFs? Do you feel like that will keep you interested to keep watching?
I mean, well, if you break it down, a GIF to me is just it's just a short animation, but the main difference between an animation and a GIF is that it's a super tiny. GIFs are made for the internet, so they're super tiny files that are made to be looped over and over again, which is, I mean,
exactly. But I'm saying if they're looped, do you think that'll lose your interest? Because like you were saying earlier, Nick, with subtle animations, you can make it look like almost like if you set up a camera to watch a nature background, there's subtle animations, and you can make that almost a GIF loop.
I think that would be.
Go for it.
It does depend on what type of GIF story you're trying to tell. A nature one probably wouldn't hold my attention, but something like this that has this overarching themes and deals with like futuristics and robots and the end of the world and the apocalypse, dude. Fucking plug me right into the Matrix, dude. I'll suck all that shit down.
Yeah, I think it's based on keeping the viewer entertained, like and that's all based on like the content of whatever you're watching. Like, is it interesting? Like, I could take a bunch of GIFs that are already made and plop them in something that'll maybe take me 2 hours, and it'll probably suck. But if I have a story that I worked on, or a song that I worked on that I really am emotionally invested in, and I really like it, I'm sure I could also do the same thing and go in and find those GIFs, the same GIFs that I used for the shitty one, and it'll probably be 10 times better just because I actively created something that I'm invested in,
So
I hear that. I guess I'm okay, so I think that says the difference between a story piece and a vibe piece. I feel like there's a lot. I've been attached to a lot of pieces that don't necessarily need the best story, but if they set up a good feeling or vibe or something to... I know as of lately, I enjoy a lot more pieces of art that I could put in the background. And I know we've talked about that plenty of times, but stuff that could just give the viewer a feeling rather than the full story, and the audience can make up the rest of the idea themselves.
The vibe for that one was super cool, just because as an artist, as a visual artist, I look at that and then initially say, how the hell did he do that?
How the fuck did he do? Yeah.
One, it looks like, you've seen a million like pixel art before. You've seen a ton of pixel art. But when you have a black and white pixel art that looks like anatomically correct with like good angles, and then there's like shadows and shit. You have to like stipple. Have you guys ever stippled anything where like it's like a stick and poke tattoo? Okay, like a stick and poke tattoo where you create like shading and shadows through like dots, like and the more so that's basically a stick and poke tattoo is stippling. You take dots and any of the shaded areas are just full of like heavy consolidated dots where and that whole piece of art right there, like it was shaded with stippling, and then you do that in like a digital art form, like pixelated art. It's just like, how the hell did he do this, man?
I wish they would have. Go for it, Nick.
Before we get into that, you brought up, you basically answered your own question, but I want to throw this to Brett as well. How do you feel about these high concept cartoons or animations? Like, are you more of a high concept, I want it to really fucking make me think and be engaged, like I gotta sit there and watch? Or are you more like Al, where you appreciate the art in that, but sometimes you prefer to throw something on where it's more of a vibe and more of a feeling? Where do you land on that fence,
Life's
Brett?
a roller coaster, man. I feel like I want my ups and downs, and the same thing with this. Like, I feel like sometimes I'm ready to sit down and like get really like have like
inspired
a heavy ass story. Give me a 2-hour interface where I'm gonna learn how to uncrack the code of life, or let's just watch two characters farting for 2 minutes. Like I like them both, and you should cherish them both because they're both worthy of storytelling and worthy of entertainment, I think.
Agreed. Al, what were you gonna say?
Oh, I don't even know what I was getting into, but I feel like to get back on what you're saying, I agree. I feel like I like both too. I feel like sometimes you just need the vibe piece, and sometimes you need the story. But what is funny is, as We Are the Television, we have yet to do the deep vibe piece, man. I feel like next year we kind of got to work on some.
It's just a lot of
interface vibes.
It's a lot of head power. I feel like I'm going to come out of that like gaunt and like dead and like, what did I do with my life? That's like so many hours on one piece, you know?
So interface was deep as hell, true. But when he divided it into the piece by piece things, there are some real dumb, stupid moments that Mischief says that I don't think he really had a purpose behind. I think he just thought, it would be funny if he said that.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So I feel like sometimes you look deeper into something because you see the whole, when in reality, it's just that's who he is. I think he just made a bunch of cool little pieces, and you put those together and you think, wow, that guy is so deep, and he probably had the most insane story. And I mean, he may have, but he also may have just been a stream of consciousness. Let's create some cool art daily, and it turned into that.
In a sense, I feel like I tried to do that with Whatever Man. Now, if as someone who looks at it from the outside, it's like, oh, it's a story about, like, it's a bunch of fart jokes and like some guy is talking about a shit burger. Like, sure, but to me, that was like a year's worth of work combined, and I like, it's a lot of energy, you know. And at the end of the day, you spent a year on one project, which that's putting a lot of eggs.
Created.
It's a lot of eggs in one basket, you know. And it's like,
dude, and trust me, that basket is gonna pay off, Sporus. I'm not gonna let you lose your mind to a high concept project.
Sure. All right.
You're keeping your balls on this one. But Al, do you got anything left to touch on that?
No. Brett, what have you been watching?
Oof. So I got a short animated film, 10-minute film called My Breakfast with Barf. It was written, directed, and performed by Peter Javidpour. It's Javidpour. So it could be Javidpour or Javidpour. I don't know. I think it's Javidpour. And the log line is Leonard, an insecure artist, reconnects with an old friend from his days in the theater. So this, I believe, was made in Blender, which is it's a new thing that I am incredibly interested in. I wish I knew how to use it. I'm recently trying to start.
You made
using
a donut.
It. I'd made a donut, but I also well, anyone who starts with Blender makes that fucking donut because that's the only tutorial that's like everyone is like, do that.
Do it.
Yeah,
I did it.
yeah. But this it's a 10-minute long film about it. It feels like an art like an A24 art house film, like when you turn it on at first. There's like jazz music. It follows an artist, an independent artist. But the independent artist has an egghead, and it's immediately set off by his character that he goes out to breakfast with named Barf, who is like spitting the entire time. He's just a blob, and he like farts, and his stomach is rumbling the whole time. He talks about going out with the boys, meeting hot chicks, and shit. It's and this other character is like very like proper and he just wants to go meet with his friend, but it's hard. The lead character's name is Leonard Skinner, and it was an official selection in the Pictoplasm 2022, which I'm assuming is a film festival or something. But
nice.
This guy, I looked into him after watching this film, and he's got the driest sense of humor, and it's hilarious. I'm going to link his YouTube channel below, but he made these films he made these short like YouTube films 8 years ago of I thought they were real at first. I thought it was just some YouTuber who was fucking up videos online and just making a terrible YouTube channel. But after watching a few videos, it was like, oh my God, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. The guy in one of the videos is saying, yeah, YouTube took off the audio because I use Rage Against the Machine. So if you could just call this number below, it has the audio of this video on that phone call, so you could just watch the video and sync with my voicemail. And this video goes on for like 3 minutes. It's funny. But yeah, it's a Blender film. It's worth watching.
On YouTube?
Yes, it's I'm sure you can find it somewhere else, but yeah, YouTube is where I found it. My Breakfast with Barf.
My Breakfast with Barf. Definitely have to watch that one. So, what was the
just
takeaway?
A one-off?
Yeah, is it just a one-off? What was?
It's funny. It's a funny. It's it's a dry humor that's funny, and it's the takeaway. It wasn't like one. It's good use of Blender. One guy made a Blender a 3D film. Two, it's not a film that you would normally see in this medium that meshes two styles, humor and this vibe of like a indie film, and does it well. The payoff at the end of the short is really funny. It just ends. It unexpectedly ends in a good way.
Like Joe Pera style, dry, or
I would say
dry?
more like Tim and Eric meets. You know what? I'm probably meshing Tim and Eric because of his YouTube channel. If you watch his other videos, but no, I guess
I would say they are so not dry at all.
No, that's what's funny about it. That's what's funny about it is he's dry and does that same like. Wait, what?
Weird.
Like, what is happening? Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Cool.
Well, good shit. So for those watching, go check out Intergalactic on Netflix. Go watch the short Inside by Mattis Dovier. Is that correct, Al?
Yeah, I believe that's how you pronounce it.
And
My Breakfast with Barf by Peter Javidpour.
Do it. All of those you can find online. We'll also link to those in the description. Check out the Patreon. You can find some cool shit on there. Buy a Toon Talk mug. All the behind the scenes shit that goes on and doing this stuff. Music, more animations. And let's get ready for a GD Cartoon Cookbook.
Let's do it.
Do you love something enough to let it tear you apart? Everyone's an idiot and I don't even know where to start. Work all day to get more things. The rest of my time I just spend lingering.
Reality television.